Now, I am super excited about our next speaker. He is one of the great cross-industry leaders of culture, business, and digital transformation. And I'm talking about Lee Bogner, Global E-commerce Enterprise Architect and Innovation Strategy for Mars Corporation. Lee, what a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Joe.
He is an e-commerce pioneer and innovator since 1996. Lee Bogner is currently Global E-commerce Enterprise Architect and Digital Ventures Innovation Strategist at Mars. And he's also a professor of e-commerce at Hofstra University. He leads many global digital innovation initiatives in emerging and established markets across Mars businesses, including pet care, confectionery, food, and life sciences. Lee's background includes CIO at an acquired $100 million e-retailer, tours with Johnson & Johnson, Accenture, IBM, and taking 4 digital startups to exit in analytics, social media, online video, and e-commerce solutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a true pleasure to welcome one of the greats with us, Lee Bogner.
Thank you so much, Jose, and it's a pleasure to be back with Proqis at the Digital Transformation Workplace Live Conference. Let me just get my settings going. Let's see, I'm going to hide this for now. Let's see, maybe I can do this. Okay. So
outstanding. Your camera is on, so
yes.
Go ahead and share your presentation to the audience. If you can go into the sharing and hit the show screen when you're ready.
That's right. Let me find that. Sorry about that.
You got it. We can see everything now. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So nice to see everybody here. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about enterprise architecture and creating value for digital innovation. Part of that has to do with the work I do in strategic foundations and transformations of our organization to embrace enterprise architecture as not just a technical discipline, but also for creating value and leading digital innovation strategy. So let me get started with that. You hit my forward buttons. Okay, so EA, or enterprise architecture, needs a definition, and because many organizations, they may have it, or they may be just starting out, and the definitions vary, but they're very much needed in terms of your journey to take enterprise architecture into a strategic mode within large corporations. At my company, we're in 80 countries. We're in 4 distinct business units, as Jose mentioned. And the definition that I like to see is really about architecting the enterprise for change. So the enterprise architecture group is really about the whole organization and helping them make informed strategic decisions about digital business, operating models, new technology that can be utilized throughout the business. So it's very important to have that defined. It will evolve over time, but then also communicated across your organization. EA is used to steer decision-making and help move the company towards future state, not just technology and solution architectures, but also operating and deployment models. So how do we deliver value within enterprise architecture? Working closely with stakeholders, especially the business and IT leaders, and helping drive pertinent recommendations, as I mentioned, for strategies, but also policies and leadership. And we're going to go into examples of a few of those, and really focus on outcomes that capitalize on the objectives, goals, and strategies and measures of the company. So again, the scope includes people, process, information, and technology. You'll notice I spoke about this whole slide, and we talked about technology at the end. It's a very important portion, but it has to come together with all these other factors, elements, and aspects.
Lee, I
So,
beg your pardon, but your slide is not refreshing on our end. Could you please go ahead and test just moving to the next slide to make sure that we're seeing what you're seeing? Because right now we're still on your very first slide. We don't see the next slide.
okay, I'm on slide 3 now.
Yeah, no, it's not refreshing on our end. The screen that you're sharing is not showing the slide changes. You may need to choose a different screen on your system that has the next slide. Yeah, now we can see the background of your computer, and I know you're on slide 3. If you can put on presentation mode on that slide again, because we're not seeing that, we're still seeing the previous slide only.
How's this?
Now we can see the slide in the background, but it's not on presentation mode.
Okay, because I have it in presentation mode.
Yeah, it's strange. The screen that we see is actually the other screen. You may need to go under the sharing tab and pick a different screen to share with us. Under the sharing tab on the GoToWebinar interface, there under the show screen button, there's a little drop down menu that will allow you to pick different screens to share. So you may need to choose a different screen, because the one that we see right now is not the one on presentation mode. We see the one that has the preview of your slides. So a bit of try and error would be fine if you just want to pick a different screen that has under the show screen button, pick a different option under that. Yeah, now we see a screen that has kind of file systems for your system there. Maybe try a different one. Again, do that under the sharing tab, under the GoToWebinar interface, under the show screen button. There should be a little toggle menu there that you can pick different screens on your system. Do you see that, or that's not visible to you?
No, I see. Let me try this. Can you see it now?
Now we see your presentation in preview mode, meaning that the PowerPoint is not on presentation mode on the view that we have. We see the slide with a preview of the slides on the left side. And you're saying that at this moment you already are on presentation mode full screen, right?
Yes, I am.
So we want to capture that screen, and the way to capture that screen is to go under the sharing tab on the there we go. That's the screen. I think you got it now.
Okay.
Just as a test, can you try to move the, yep, now we can see your slides moving, so that's the right screen share. Thank you for your patience, and for our audience as well. Thanks for hanging there with us.
Yes.
Lee has a new machine, so he's working through through the items there.
My normal machine, unfortunately, crashed on me yesterday. So,
you know, Lee, that's the great challenges of digital transformation, right? Technology that sometimes will be that we have to overcome those hurdles.
That is correct.
Thank you. Please go on.
So here's the slide that I was talking about, the definition of architecture on the top left and the top, and the various ways it's used, and the scope and delivering value. So now let's go to the next screen. And can you see this? Enterprise.
Yes, we can. Yes. Yeah, we see the new screen now. Thank you.
Perfect. So my point here is that you have to have a definition around what your enterprise architecture organization is all about. And the model that we use, and we've been at it for about 3 years now, 2.5, 3 years, and it's highly optimized at this point. We focus on 3 specific areas. One is simplify, the next is transform, and the third is innovate. With simplify, we go out, we search on technical debt, we remove liabilities of old systems, we reduce risk and complexity, and we recover costs through rationalization. That's some of the areas that we simplify. Other areas that we simplify are through a rationalization of our portfolio of applications to, where possible, minimize the number of enterprise applications that we use across the company and within the various business units. In many cases, we'll have to move to a multi-tier system depending on the regions and the needs, but that's the goal overall. The next area for transformation, we look to take some of those reduced technical debt and then move them to the next generation. So we want to reuse standard capabilities, as I was just mentioning, across the businesses. That includes products and platforms, but have them standardized according to our reference architectures, our agreements with vendors, the capabilities that we can use and share across various brands and business organizations, and do this at speed. So we're very big about what we call 100x agile rollout and acceleration. And then next, the area where I focus most of my time is seizing value through innovation and going out into what I call frontier and emerging markets and beginning new ventures, new business models that are solution-based that help us drive inroads into those new regions and do so in ways that we can scale up within countries, within regions, and then also share our successes across various businesses, brands, and product lines. So how do we do this? We start with a foundation of a team, and we break it down into 4 pillars. And the areas that I'll focus on are pillars 1 and 2, but I'll describe them all. First, we have a portfolio of business segments across our candy business, our pet business, our human food business, our life sciences. And here we work hand in hand with the businesses on their strategy, their digital strategy. We understand their portfolio of current state systems and architectures, and the goals that they have in the business that can be realized by future state enhancement and transformation. And we manage the roadmaps of those solutions and capabilities. And we begin to get involved with innovation projects, proof of concepts, test and learns, big part of what we do. Next, in pillar 3, we also look at, in addition to the technical debt, we look at introducing new technologies, capabilities, and infrastructures. And we've been doing a lot in the last couple of years, bringing AI, machine learning, IoT into certain areas, manufacturing, consumer experience. We're also have made a huge transformation of new technology away from hosted environments, even third-party external hosted environments, to the cloud environment. We are an Azure shop, but we also work very closely with AWS from Amazon and in a smattering of GCP from Google. The latter two are a bit more in our SaaS relationships with third parties. The pillars 2 and 4 are traditional enterprise architecture, governance type capabilities where we review every project that comes into Mars, map it against existing platforms or new technologies. We do information and data security, integration, infrastructure assessments. At the same time, we're understanding how the business people and process are aligned strategically, not just with the technologies, but with the business purpose. And then I mentioned early on, core technology transformation, applications and technology rationalization for reducing risk and cost savings. These are all key to enterprise architecture foundation. So how do we do this? We do this with a team of 15 plus senior leaders with 15 to 20 years experience. And those are the guys in the top middle. And we break them across various groups, and we do a little double duty on the groups on the left. So you have your enterprise business segment architects that are focused on either candy or pet food or human food. Then we have digital innovation and solution architects, where I tend to lie, and work on cross horizontal initiatives for the various businesses So solutions, techniques, digital business models, center of excellence, skills development that can initially start within a small subset within a brand or within a business segment, but then roll out to various other business segments. So for instance, I've done work in pet nutrition in India that within 3 months I was leveraging over to Mars Wrigley candy in India. The same technologies, the same business model, a little bit more emphasis on cold storage delivery on the last mile for D2C e-commerce because of the temperature of the region. Not needed for candy, but not so much for dry dog food. Anyway, security architects, application integration architects, our technology architects, the infrastructure guys that help us together with the other groups put together our cloud infrastructures so we can enable these test and learns and these transformational rollouts. So how do we approach our business? Many of you are familiar with the traditional approach, and if you try to maximize scale and efficiency in the legacy world, you have a hodgepodge of experiences, infrastructures, your data's all over the place, various applications, and that feeds into what I talked about earlier. But by taking a digital first approach to maximize speed with agility at 100x and applying innovation, we look at all of our projects against these digital first elements and factors. Headless computing is becoming more and more important as our consumer behaviors change and their means of coming online digitally are important against what our businesses need, what our customers need, meaning our retailers, as well as what our consumers need, and up against the competition. And then other aspects to move 100x API capabilities so we can reuse APIs across various architectures and solutions. Microservices to get our functionality down to the micro level so we can apply common capabilities across the various businesses and leverage them for reuse. And then the cloud native approach. Pretty much all of our projects, 99% of them, are now cloud native. And with this approach and digital first approach, we're putting a lot of forethought into what is the data that we need, how are we going to process it through new technologies such as data lakes that are either serving a region or serving the globe, and how do we leverage those across our businesses and roll them up to corporate. Automation is a big initiative I mentioned early, IoT, Industry 4.0 in our factories, and cybersecurity, obviously huge, always, and even more so in this digital world. And what you'll recognize too is that a lot of this focus came about during COVID pandemic. So we were fighting fires at the same time, huge demand for new digital experiences. We're a legacy 100-year-old company. And when I joined 5 years ago, digital e-commerce was looked at with quite a bit of skepticism. But once COVID hit and the foundation that we had put in place was ready, the floodgates opened. And I'm sure your organization's experienced a very similar thing. So again, foundationally, it's not just the platforms and the technologies on the right, but it's the people and the process that's involved. So we have the foundations, we're continuously improving. We use sprint methodologies, transformation, acceleration, more transformation sprints. And let's talk a little bit now about EA's role in digital venture innovations. I'll kind of skip over this because we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I want to be cognizant of time here. So when we look at various technology trends, we'll focus on a variety during a year. And in this case, we focused on a lot of these a number of them, we put a little bit more commitment. I mentioned automation, the cybersecurity, self-managing systems, delivery technology for D2C in multiple markets, new digital payments. We're also speculating a little bit with the metaverse to some degree. And we've actually, some of our work was an early metaverse 2 years ago. It just wasn't labeled as such. And we'll touch on that a little bit. So again, simplify, transform, and innovate. So how do we do this? We utilize what we call on the right our digital engine. And we start most programs and projects with a new way, fresh way of thinking, using technologies and methodologies around design thinking, this cog on the middle upper left, right, I mean. So to enable growth, we utilize user-centric thinking. We spend time with customers and consumers, as well as our business partners, technology partners. We also bring in data on the top right, as well as AI and next generation thinking. And then we look to automate where possible and look to find next problems through our results of the data and automation. And at the bottom, we follow a formula which on most of the honeycombs you're familiar with. Define, ideate, prototype, test. That's our test and learn POC model. But we put a lot of weight on the beginning, on the empathize of the consumer, the stakeholders, our customers, our partners, and our employees. So how do we do that? Again, touched on the left, cover this quickly, business roadmaps, governance in the middle, and risk elimination. Then in the very middle, we're constantly looking at the industry trends and technology trends, but at the bottom, we're looking at bottom-up opportunities. This is where our business are in emerging markets, in frontier markets, in established markets, comes from the bottom up. And we work closely with those business leaders to help understand what's happening on the ground and how we can meet the shifts competitively and technologically. And we put together a group called Digital Ventures, focused on agile innovation. And this isn't just bright, shiny object stuff. This is really purposeful, and we have a methodology around it. But the themes around it that are very important are quick time to market, test and learn and fail, and then build to scale. So that's where we bring together a lot of the lean startup type methodologies. So while we're seizing value and innovating, here's three that were huge over the last couple of years with COVID. On the left, we have our retailers in certain markets for decades. Our field salespeople would go do their visits with the retailers and spend time and walk the stores and order products and all of that. Of course, all of that was shut down across the world during COVID. So what we were able to do within 30 days was with our business partners, with our stakeholders in the regions, and with our customers, our retailers, put together messaging systems, in this case using WhatsApp, but we've done it with Facebook, Viper, depending on the markets, for orders to be placed online and communication between the field sales reps who are no longer visiting the sites and the buyers within the retailers. And we were able to keep a continuity of order flow because at the same time COVID was shutting down, the retailers were still delivering groceries and food to the consumers during COVID. So that's number one. In the middle, we put together, again, very fast to market within 3 months. The idea came up as COVID lockdown started in the US. Halloween trick-or-treating is the biggest candy holiday of the year for Mars, as well as the competitive manufacturers of candy. So what we did, we put together an idea out of enterprise architecture, brought it to the brands and merchandising and the deployment teams, the legal teams, the commercial teams, and put together a digitized version of trick-or-treating online, a true avatar family experience within their own local communities where they could decorate their digital versions of their houses and their personas and go house to house with their friends and neighbors. And we partnered with Disney, we partnered with Walmart, we partnered with Walgreens. And through that, we were able to connect, and we put together a digital economy of candy points, which were then redeemable either online or in the store to pick up their candy. Halloween was not canceled, and that was our theme. And it was a huge traditional and digital media success on top of it. And frankly, it turns out it is an early, the techniques that we use in the underlying platforms, Unity, PlayFab from Microsoft, are early metaverse tools. So it's very exciting from that end. And the plan is to move that to other holidays. So on the right, another 30-day turnaround in March, April, when COVID hit, we were able to move our 5,200 veterinarians and our hundreds of health clinics and move them to online telehealth with pet parents and pets and veterinarians live and turn that on within 30 days. Huge success. Seizing value through innovation and driving the art of possibility. Okay, so the approach, standard to some degree, problem definition, mapping the journeys of the experiences, but then looking at what we call how might we's out of our design thinking and user centricity. What are the differentiations? What are the disruptors and art of possible scenarios? And in my opinion, just as much disruption, it's also creation of frontier and new markets, in addition to disruption. And then features, rollouts, partnerships, all put together with technology foundations. So how do we journey map our approach? We start with immersion sessions, which we call hackathons, where we learn, we absorb with our stakeholders, we frame the problem, we ideate. Then we begin the planning process and prioritization process to get to an opportunities pipeline by exploring these opportunities and then prioritize them in a plan, prioritize these ventures and make sense of what we want to do. Third, we begin the incubation, which moves us towards execution, proof of concept, test and learn, 3 to 6 month iterations, which was shown on the prior slide, exactly what we did there, where we create the applications and the solutions, but more so the consumer experience and put that together. And we learn what's working, what's not working. And then we move to the realization and scaling and take the pilots out. So for instance, in the area of D2C in certain markets, what through my background as a professor and being in e-commerce since 96, I was able to help highlight the idea that in certain markets, such as India and Indonesia in particular, Mars as a foreign entity, we weren't allowed to sell direct to consumer. Neither could Walmart or neither can Amazon. What we had to do was leverage new business models, which in the shortened version are B to D to C, business to distributor to consumer. So we would sell inventory into our distributors in country, and we would work with them to build a Mars-oriented website, Face of Mars products for pet food and candy. And these businesses in country would then conform to FDI protectionism regulation and be able to take orders and then move the goods directly to the consumers on last mile carrier delivery. The money Mars got was up front by selling the inventory, but we had a hand in leading our customers and distributors in those markets through the B2D2C model. So what do we do when we're when we're doing the design thinking and user centricity model, based on techniques from IDEO, consulting firm, we put together a art of possibility value stream. We call these the how might we's. And if you look at them, it's not just about how might we put in, an AI ordering system or a WhatsApp messaging system for customer support and e-commerce ordering, but how might we attract consumers and partners to participate in these new ecosystems, in these emerging market frontiers. And then once we begin to attract, how do we engage them in these ecosystems? Once we begin engaging them conversationally through e-commerce as a community, how do we begin the long-term retention by delighting them in our ways of working and getting the scale up to happen, not just in that single country, but move it to countries within the region. And then re-engage consumers, partners on a continuous basis. So it's a full circle iterative flow. So if you look at the way we do this, we've scaled end-to-end innovation. We utilize planning on the left, hackathons, our leadership, our coordinating with business strategy, put together the pipeline, and then we drive it out. And these are lists of projects that we did, but it's also on the right, our communication vehicles. We have quarterly reports and sessions. We have monthly newsletters. We have annual reports. And we share these globally because when we focus on certain businesses, other businesses then begin to learn, hey, we want to get involved with these digital venture innovations. So this kind of shows the roadmap of the different types of capabilities. And over on the left, it's really about the business strategy and focus. How are we, driving intelligent nutrition recommendations? How are we growing the vet business? How are we scaling through AI and aided selling? These are various areas that we did. These bluish level lines are the hackathons, and within them, they started in 2020, and you could see there's a smattering of them, about a dozen or so during 2020. Then we moved into 2021, full speed, very heavy, and we're continuing this in 2022. Very exciting time with over 40 successful projects. So to kind of, this is kind of a glimpse of some other areas that I spend my time at conferences speaking about, as well as at Mars and at Hofstra and in my academic role. What's important is embracing your ecosystems and understanding the components of how you collaborate to help make you successful. This applies to businesses as well as enterprise architecture approaches to rolling out new businesses. So in the broader rectangle, we have two ecosystems, which I've simplified here. On the left, the internal simplified ecosystem, and on the right, very important external simplified ecosystem. On the left, working with, at the top, the business unit and the strategy. And as we go clockwise to the right, the EA and the various enterprise architecture domains, security, infrastructure, data, the business enterprise architecture. Of course, security, enablement and deployment, your commercial and legal and regulatory. These are all important factors. And these are just some of the key areas. On the right, you have your business partners, your technology partners, your vendors. You have to keep an eye on your competitors. And then, of course, the consumers are such a big part of it, and they have to be engaged completely as you drive your business to reach your goals and your outcomes. But if you take even a closer look, I've expanded the ecosystem on the right because I think it's very important to understand not just partners, vendors, competitors, and consumers, but especially in frontier markets and emerging markets where you're looking to make a play, where your brands might be recognized already, but businesses aren't on a solid footing there. So there's various areas that do not conform to the Silicon Valley model, where VCs are ready to go and transportation is in place and legal understands, disruptive ventures. Now, in many cases, this is not even in place. Financial VCs in emerging markets might not be there. Transportation may be very minimal. Getting your direct-to-consumer deliveries to consumers. The fact is that there's over 50% of the world does not have a street address, but they have cell phone access and they have residents. How do they get their consumer products, their consumables to their houses when they don't have a street address? Or how does even more importantly, how does an ambulance get to their house? So working with frontier vendors such as OK Hi, using geopositioning and building out map technologies, emerging markets in India and Africa and Southeast Asia are now able to determine how to get products to those houses without street address. Other areas, energy might be lacking, legal precedent might be lacking, and regulations such as the FDI protectionism in India and Indonesia need to be looked at. So very many aspects are part of this. So this is a bit about the Mars innovation transformation story. It's been my pleasure to share this with you. And just to quote Buckminster Fuller, famous orator, there is nothing in a caterpillar on the left that tells you it's going to be a butterfly on the right. So keep that in mind as you go forward. And remember, the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. Thank you very much.
Lee, it's always a pleasure, a masterclass. The journey that you are leading at Mars is one of the most impactful culture, business, and digital transformations that we have witnessed. And it's always a great pleasure to have you with us. Thank you again so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us today. We will not have time for questions today because the next session is going to start soon. But Lee, I had so much commentary during your presentation because, and the reason that personally why I love you as a leader is because of your high degree of accomplishment and authenticity. And the reality is that in digital transformations, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we have to recover from challenges. And what a great session to demonstrate that. You got a new PC, the thing wasn't working, and here we are, troubleshooting in real time, making it happen, but making it real, because that's how digital transformation takes place, right?
You're absolutely right. That is a 100x in action. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Brian and team. And thank you, audience. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always here to talk, and I love peer networking. So let's do that. Jose, take care, man.
Thank you very much, Lee. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise with our global audience today.
Bye now.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Lee Bogner, leader for culture, business, and digital transformation at the Mars Corporation. We're going to be taking a short break now, and I will be seeing you back at the top of the hour with another tremendous leader of culture, business, and digital transformation. And he is coming from one of the great organizations, one of the great global organizations. And I'm going to get you to the session title here and make sure that I get his session title just right. And I'm talking about James Kirk, who is the Director of Digital Workplace Service at Campbell Soup. And he's going to talk about the journey to superior customer experience. So take a break now. I come back with James at the top of the hour. Thank you.